The night on Kitty Hawk Beach was icy, the wind tearing through their clothes and playing with the sand, leaving cold marks on the brothers' faces. Orville and Wilbur stood next to their wooden fabric structure, a machine that did not yet know whether it would lift them into the sky or shatter their dreams to pieces. Orville's heart was pounding. Wilbur clenched his fists, trying to control the mixture of fear and excitement that swirled in his chest. They knew that this night could change everything, but would the world be ready to believe in their dream? Their story began long before this moment. As children in Dayton, the brothers were already obsessed with mechanics, taking apart watches, building small models, and even toy airplanes. Every attempt was a lesson. Every failure was a new step towards a great dream, to conquer the sky where no one had dared to climb. Why did they go so resolutely towards this, when all around was only doubt and skepticism? The first experiments on the Kitty Hawk dunes were harsh. Gliders fell, the wind tore fabric, the wood cracked under the blows. Once Wilbur narrowly avoided serious injury when the device, caught in a strong gust, overturned on the sand. Orville rushed to save his brother, and only thanks to the quick reaction, the tragedy was avoided. They learned to appreciate every gust of wind, every little thing, because they knew a mistake can cost much more than disappointment. The wind became their invisible enemy and teacher at the same time. A light breeze could suddenly become a storm, and even a small error in control could end in disaster. The brothers began to keep detailed records, measuring wind speed, wing angle, and liftoff points. They created their own aerodynamic tables and a small wind tunnel for tests. What if this is not enough? Can they tame the natural forces that have held humanity on Earth for centuries? Financial pressure added to the tension. Spending their last money on wood, fabric, and tools, they denied themselves everything else. Their family worried, their neighbors laughed. Why waste so much time on a useless fantasy? But the brothers knew that this was not just a game, but a real battle for a dream that could change history. Will they have enough determination when the whole world doubts? Every fall, every gust of wind, every night spent on the dunes, hardened their resolve. They learned to combine science with practice, intuition with observation, and every day their device became more stable. But the catch remained. The reader does not know whether the brothers will have enough strength and knowledge to accomplish what until now seemed impossible. What will happen when the moment comes when they finally try to rise to the sky? The following weeks on the Kitty Hawk dunes turned into an endless series of launches, crashes, and sleepless nights. Every flight was a risk. The glider could break off, overturn, or simply fall into the sand, and the wind left no room for error. Orville and Wilbur pulled the device out of the sand hundreds of times, mending torn fabric, sanding fasteners, counting every gram of weight to make the wings more stable. Every time the glider took off even a few meters, the brothers' hearts beat wildly, but this did not guarantee success the next time. Their notes and aerodynamic tables became increasingly complex. They experimented with different wing angles, rudder shapes, and even the pilot's body position, trying to find the perfect balance. Each new change brought with it the worry of what if it was a mistake? What if the next launch would end in injury? One morning, a strong gust of wind blew the glider off almost halfway, and Orville barely managed to hold it in place with his hands. They felt that they were on the verge of success or disaster. The brothers also began to face a new challenge: skepticism from those around them. Local residents watched them from afar, shaking their heads in disbelief that these two Dayton boys would ever take to the skies. Neighbors said, "It's a waste of time," or "the wind will teach them to respect nature sooner or later." But it was this skepticism that fueled the brothers' determination. They knew that every victory would be more important if they could prove that innovation was possible, even when the whole world doubted it. The financial pressure remained heavy. They spent their last money on new parts, tools, and fabric, while skimping on everything else. Every purchase was a risk. If the machine fell and broke again, the expense would be for naught. But the brothers did not give up. They believed that the investment in knowledge, patience, and precise calculations would pay off someday. But when exactly? The reader does not yet know how close they are to a breakthrough, and this creates tension. Will the brothers have enough strength to see the idea through? Another unexpected challenge was the weather. They had planned to launch in calm winds, but the wind changed direction in seconds, sending sand and small objects flying in all directions. Each launch was like a game of chance. The brothers learned to read the air, feel its movement, and anticipate sudden gusts. This required not only technical knowledge but also instinct, almost like a premonition. Each success strengthened their faith, each failure taught them patience. But the biggest catch remained. The reader does not know that behind the numerous falls and trials lies the first moment when the glider rises above the ground. And it is from this moment that the world will change. The brothers do not yet know how close they came to achieving a historic breakthrough, and this keeps the tension high. They became more methodical every day. Wilbur recorded the details of the launches, Orville fixed the machine, and together they analyzed the errors. Every little thing could be the key to success. A little more tilt, a lighter frame, a more accurate calculation of speed. They learned to combine science, experience, and intuition. But the reader does not yet know whether this will be enough to overcome the ultimately unpredictable force of nature. The following winter brought new challenges. Kitty Hawk Beach remained a severe test for the brothers, but they had already learned to read the wind and predict its gusts. Each morning began with a check of the device. Wood, fabric, fasteners, new rudder settings. All this mattered. They already knew that even the slightest error could nullify all days of work. Orville carefully watched the horizon. Wilbur checked the calculation tables. Both understood. The next launch could be a turning point or end in another defeat. Their first attempts this season were more cautious. Each flight lasted only a few seconds, but that was enough to feel the lightness of the air, the invisible force that could keep them above the ground. Sometimes the glider rose just above the sand dunes. Sometimes it fell rapidly, but each movement gave new knowledge. They noticed the slightest fluctuations in the rudder, the position of the body, the interaction of the wings with the air, and each time they adjusted the next attempt. The reader does not yet know how many times they fell and risked their lives, and this is what creates tension. Each failure brings them closer to a breakthrough. Gradually, the first signs of success appeared. The glider rose above the sand, lingered in the air for a few seconds longer than before. The brothers' hearts beat faster with each ascent, but they do not celebrate. They know that the real test is still ahead. Each small triumph is only a signal that they are moving in the right direction, but the reader does not yet know whether this will be enough for the final conquest of the sky. Neighbors began to notice their success. Some stopped to watch the flight, but skepticism remained. Maybe they'll finally take off? They wondered, but few believed that two brothers from Ohio could change the world. This skepticism only fueled the brothers' determination. Each demonstration was a silent challenge to all doubters. The reader already feels the intrigue. How will the world react when they achieve a true breakthrough? Technical difficulties also did not recede. The winds became more unpredictable, the fabric tore more often, and the mounts did not always withstand the load. The brothers learned to repair the device quickly, even in the middle of sand dunes, and immediately prepare for a new launch. They also began to experiment with different materials, lighter wooden slats, stronger fabrics, new wing designs. Each time they balanced the risk with the opportunity to learn something new. The financial strain did not subside. They continued to spend their last money on materials, tools, and sometimes even borrowed from family. Every dollar was worth its weight in gold, and failure could destroy everything. However, their faith in the dream remained unbreakable. The reader is already waiting. Will they have enough determination and knowledge to overcome the last obstacles? And despite all the difficulties, the brothers began to notice patterns that had previously seemed random. They developed a glider control system that allowed them to predict the behavior of the wind and reduce risks. Each small victory strengthened their faith, and at the same time maintained the intrigue. The reader does not yet know what moment will become a real breakthrough, when the device will rise above all expectations and leave doubts behind forever. When the first triumphant attempts of the glider became noticeable even to outsiders, the brothers realized it was time to go beyond Kitty Hawk. They began preparing for demonstrations that could show the world their achievements, but at the same time carry unpredictable risks. Each launch became a training ground for new tests. Sand could slip underfoot, the wind could change direction, and the metal elements of the device sometimes creaked, reminding of an invisible threat. Orville and Wilbur carefully checked every detail, but they knew even the most careful preparation does not guarantee complete safety. The reader feels the tension. Will the device withstand the next demonstrations? And will the world be able to believe in the impossible? The brothers began to share their results with a narrow circle of scientists and mechanics. The reactions were different. Some were delighted, others raised their eyebrows skeptically. Domestic newspapers at first ignored the news, and international magazines did not even suspect that a new era of aviation was being born on a distant American dune. Skepticism further fueled the brother. Each criticism forced him to work harder, check the calculations again, and prove that they were not just playing, but creating the future. Along with the demonstrations came the bureaucratic challenge of patents. The procedures seemed endless. Documents, drawings, descriptions of details, arguments about why their device was unique. The brothers spent hours making sure that every little detail was recorded, because any mistake could cost them the rights to the invention. Orville often admitted to Wilbur that paperwork was draining, but Wilbur convinced them that without protection, their work would never become a real breakthrough for the world. The reader feels the hook. Will they be able to get through the bureaucratic system and keep their place in history? Each demonstration launch was a challenge in itself. The audience, though they had a limited understanding of aerodynamics, watched the craft intently. A light breeze could throw off all calculations, and even a reliable glider sometimes behaved unpredictably. The brothers learned not only to fly the craft, but also to communicate with the audience, to explain the principles, answer questions, and demonstrate control over danger. The reader is left waiting. How will the world react when they finally show a result that would change people's perceptions? Financial difficulties continued to weigh on them. Each demonstration cost money for materials, transportation, and training, and the brothers often put aside personal needs. They economized on everything, living modestly but with faith in their dream. A sense of risk and tension constantly accompanied them. Any mistake could be a disaster, and any success a signal that they were moving in the right direction. And even among the successes, there was an invisible hook. The reader does not yet know whether they will be able to combine all the small victories into one historic breakthrough that will change the world. Every preparation, every launch, every bureaucratic document is a step towards the moment when their invention will become obvious to everyone. Spring brought new opportunities. The brothers decided it was time to take their glider beyond the familiar dunes of Kitty Hawk. They prepared to demonstrate it to people who could witness what had previously seemed impossible. Each trip to a new location was a challenge. Transportation, assembly, and testing of every detail, and even the smallest mistake could be costly. Orville and Wilbur were used to crashes and broken wings, but they knew that now their work was under the watchful eye of a judge, and that added to the pressure. Their first public attempts were cautious. The glider rose only a few meters, but even that was enough to amaze the audience. People began to whisper, "These guys are really doing something incredible." Orville felt his heart beat faster, and Wilbur clenched his fists, watching the movement of the device. Each demonstration was not only a test of technology, but also a test of the public's faith. The reader already feels the intrigue. Will the world accept that the impossible has really become reality? The brothers faced new challenges. The winds in new places were unpredictable, and the local terrain changed the flight path. Once a strong gust almost tipped the plane over during a short climb. Orville reacted instantly, saving the structure, and Wilbur felt a rush of adrenaline. They knew that every mistake could be costly, and that is what made success so sweet. The reader is left in suspense. Will they have enough dexterity and experience for the next step? Financial and social problems also did not recede. The brothers spent money on materials and travel, and some critics remained extremely skeptical. "This is just a toy for rich guys," they said. But each demonstration, even a small one, strengthened the brothers' reputation. They knew that success in public flights would open the door to patents and international recognition. But the reader does not yet know whether they will be able to overcome all the bureaucratic and social obstacles. In addition to technical tests, the brothers began to document everything in detail. They made drawings, notes about the wind, the angle of the wings, the mass of the structure, other little things that could affect the stability of the flight. Each little thing became part of a large mosaic that one day could allow the device to rise higher and longer than ever before. The reader feels intrigued. Will the brothers' knowledge and patience be enough for a historic breakthrough? The brothers also faced a psychological challenge: publicity. They were used to working alone, among the sand dunes, where every mistake was their problem. Now people were watching them, and that added pressure. Each liftoff was a test not only of their technology, but also of their confidence. They learned to concentrate amidst the noise and doubt, to feel the air and react instinctively to every gust of wind. And yet, even among the successes and small triumphs, there was a catch. The reader has yet to find out whether the brothers will be able to combine all these victories into a real breakthrough, when the device rises above all expectations and forces the world to change its perception of flight forever. Every small success, every difficulty overcome is only preparation for the final scene, which for now remains hidden, but the tension is growing. The morning was cold, and the wind on Kitty Hawk Beach played with the sand as usual. But this time Orville and Wilbur felt a different atmosphere, a feeling that the moment had come when all the previous days of struggle and failure would lead to something great. They checked the machine again, every knot, every angle of the wings, every fabric that could affect flight. Everything was ready, but the nervous tension remained. How many more attempts would it take before they could combine knowledge, instinct, and the power of the wind in a single moment? All the previous months, even years, taught them patience. They fell, picked up the device from the sand, repaired it, analyzed the mistakes, and started again. Every failure was a lesson, and every small victory gave confidence. Now they understood. Science and practice can be combined if you work consistently and do not retreat in the face of difficulties. The reader already feels the tension, because all the little things lead to the climax. From the first launch, they felt something change. The glider stayed in the air longer than ever before. Orville felt the wind picking up the wings, and Wilbur, watching from the sidelines, realized that all the trial and error had led to this. Every onlooker who watched held his breath. This was not just a wooden structure. This was a symbol that human determination could defeat the forces of nature. But even at the moment of success, they knew it was just the beginning. The world did not yet understand the significance of their discovery, and bureaucracy and patents were waiting for their time to take the challenge to a new level. But for the brothers personally, it was a victory over fear, failure, and doubt. Every little thing, every night on the dunes, every mistake and correction, all this led them to the moment when man first felt like a part of the airspace. After this victory, their path became different. Recognition came gradually. First local newspapers, then scientific journals, then international publications. The world began to notice that two brothers from Ohio had changed the perception of human capabilities. They received patents, became a source of inspiration for inventors around the world, and their ideas continued to develop, turning into modern aviation. The conclusion is simple but powerful. Determination, patience, and systematic work can make the impossible possible. Orville and Wilbur Wright didn't just conquer the sky physically. They showed that even when the world doubts, faith in an idea, backed by knowledge and dedication, can change history. Their journey is a story of struggle against nature, skepticism, and circumstance that inspires great dreams and actions. And most importantly, success does not come instantly. It is formed through thousands of small steps, falls and rises. Every flight, every attempt, every experiment is part of a big picture that we see only in the end. And although the world knows them as aviation pioneers, their true legacy is a lesson for all generations. Do not be afraid to take risks, make mistakes, and start again, because this is how dreams are born that can change history.